Hey everyone, I'm Anya Esma, and today we're talking about the good witch, bad witch dichotomy and my thoughts on it, and how I think you can take that into your practice in a informed way rather than listening to what other people say, maybe. So, you've probably heard terms like good witch, bad witch, black magic, white magic, light magic, dark magic. I'm going to use all of these terms interchangeably in this video to describe this concept that we are talking about and that we are reflecting about. So, not just in movies or in TV shows, you hear these concepts, you also hear it online. If you get into witchcraft, if you walk the path of the craft, a lot of the time people are going to talk about witchcraft in these two terms, in this dichotomy, essentially. Also, before anyone comments, yes, my nails are short and I know it's shocking, but they were overstimulating me. It was annoying me that I had long nails. A fun fact, I was visiting a friend and she has a newborn baby, and I was like reaching to touch the baby, and she was like, ah, and I'm like, ah, what? Is something happening? And she looks at my nails and she's like, you have short nails. I'm like, oh, yeah, I thought something was wrong with the baby or something, but she was just shook that I had short nails, which says a lot. I didn't know that people associated so much with me, but I feel good about it. It makes me feel strangely like I can be more creative, like I can grab things more. And having more grab strength, I suppose, translates into my brain being able to grasp ideas better or something. At least that's what I tell myself. Um, yeah, so that's that. So this video exists for you to get more clarity on these two concepts that I mentioned, and to be more clear on which one you want to be, whether they actually exist. Wink, wink. If you know me, then you know that I'm a fan of nuance. So we're probably not going to go out of this video with this dichotomy still standing. We're going to discuss it all. We're going to find the nuance in the topic. We're going to find how you can define yourself, maybe beyond these terms of black witchcraft and white witchcraft, which are inherently problematic, but we will get to that. So before you watch this, tell me what you think of these terms. You can write it in the comments, or you can also think about it on your own. But I think it's always good to like keep a post-it note of what you were thinking before, maybe how you were viewing this topic, what you think I might say, and then watch the video and see what happens. First things first, I want to get a definition clear on what most people would consider a good witch or a dark witch. And of course, these two terms describe what approach we have to magic or how we use our magic in what ways, which means that good witches are most often associated with something like healing spells, with positivity, whether it's physical healing or mental healing, whether that is positivity in the sense of thinking positively, manifesting positively, light work, blessings, maybe even love spells, though that is kind of a gray area. We will talk about that later. So anything relating to good concepts that our society would deem good. And then we have dark witches, which may focus in the public eye on things like shadow work, baneful magic, hexing, banishing, connecting with darker energies, maybe working with darker deities. Is there something on my glasses? There's something on my glasses. Okay, let's continue. So dark energies like demons, etc. On the surface, this might feel like helpful ideas to kind of classify magic and to make sense of it, especially when you start off. But we're going to question all of this in this video and bring some nuance to this. In the end, the dichotomy of black magic and white magic, which in itself, if you use those terms, is also racially problematic, but we will get to that later. It creates a framework that is super simple for something that is immensely nuanced and immensely complicated, because witchcraft just cannot be boiled down to this is good, this is bad. So let's first bring some nuance to those terms. For example, it really depends on your belief system whether you think something is good magic or bad magic, because do you believe there is a universal plan for someone, for every person? And if you interfere with that universal plan, does that make it black magic? Or if you are trying to help someone succeed in something, is that then white magic? Or is it also dark magic because you are interfering with their life, maybe even without their consent? Or do you believe there's no plan for anyone and you're just doing things and thus nothing is black and white? So you can see how your philosophy, your thought system really influences how you would classify dark magic and light magic, or if you even want to classify it at all. I also think that labels like this really come from harmful stereotypes, like, Glinda versus the Wicked Witch of the West. That's essentially where it comes from. It's one of the many, many instances of you have a good witch and a bad witch, even though usually witches are always bad and the good part is just, a good person, not a good witch. And by assigning this moral value of good versus bad or light versus dark, we also run the risk of forgetting practices that just do not fit neatly into these categories. And if you look at it closely, I think nearly no witchcraft practice, no spell work really fits into these neat little categories. And many people try to solve this issue by boiling it down to consent. If you consent to someone doing magic on you, then it's fine. It's white magic or good magic. But if someone doesn't consent, like someone wouldn't consent if you hex them, then that makes it black magic. But even there, we have the issue of what if you try to send a healing spell to someone and they didn't consent to it? Does that make it black magic? Does it make it white magic because you're trying to help them? Are you interfering with the universal plan of them having to get through this illness on their own? There's so many nuances depending on just what you believe in. And this is what I want to make clear here. Black magic and white magic, or bad magic and good magic, or light and dark, is really a matter of perspective. There's no one moral standard that will clearly tell you this is good magic and this is bad magic. So if you look at a hexing spell, for example, and it's bringing justice, if someone hexes a person that hurt them very badly, is that then justice? Is that then magic that brings balance, or is it dark magic? There's too much nuance to even make sense of it. It's really a subjective thing, and you have to make up your own opinion of these things. Also, this whole discussion about good and bad magic also ignores the origin of witchcraft as something that did bring justice and did bring a tool for healing or for banishing or hurting to people who were marginalized, and to people who were powerless in a lot of other ways, but had the power of energy work, the power of witchcraft, of magic, of manifestation to support them. And in the end, you can always say that any decision you made was good or bad. Just like in real life, sometimes, you do something that you thought would end well and then it doesn't end well. But that doesn't mean that now you are morally a lesser than person. And this is kind of the attitude we have to bring to witchcraft as well, because you cannot always foresee the consequences of your actions, just like in real life. And I think it speaks to the fact that everyone is very scared of witchcraft, that we try to fit it into these neat little categories so that we feel safer maybe, or feel better about, classifying it, and it doesn't feel as scary. But life is kind of scary. Life is unpredictable, and witchcraft can be unpredictable as well. And that's just a part of life. Now, let's briefly talk about the cultural significance as well, because when you talk about white and black magic, it is really playing into racial stereotypes of white is good and black is bad. And that's really worth examining if you hold that thought or that dichotomy in your head. If we must speak about it in these terms, I do prefer light and dark, but even light and dark kind of fails to see the balance that is needed in the universe to create something. Light is not just good, dark is not just bad. We all kind of know that, I hope. So it's really not that helpful to speak of it in these terms. And then on top of that, you have the fact that magic of indigenous people is most often feared and most often seen as negative, like brujeria in Mexico. I hope I didn't butcher that pronunciation. You have hoodoo and voodoo and anything that the common man, the common person would associate with Black people is immediately seen as dangerous and dark, and the healing modalities that those practices also have and those traditions are most often ignored. It's all about the voodoo puppets that everybody knows that are meant to inflict damage, and it's all about those aspects and not so much about how are they using that to also heal themselves or to give themselves a sense of power that is needed and that is healing. Whereas if you look at the whitewashed version of it all, if you look at manifestation or you look at healing spells, it is also made to look incredibly harmless, even though, as I said, a healing spell without someone's consent could also be considered not morally right, depending on your framework. So just because we whitewash magic and say this is white magic, this is good magic, doesn't mean it's always inherently good or morally right, even though we simplify it like that a lot of the time. So, why is this binary really failing us? Let's bring it to the point. The first thing is witchcraft, like nature, lives off of nuance and a whole spectrum of energies. And you cannot just take these energies and say, this is light, this is dark. It's really all complementary. One is the condition for the other, one feeds off of the other. And we need to understand that if we want a strong energetic practice, because otherwise we end up thinking in these terms psychologically as well. And what I mean by that is that then you start demonizing negative emotions. Maybe you start demonizing things like anger or rage or aggression that point you towards something that is wrong and that you have to do some work on. But pushing them away is not doing the work, and pushing them away and saying, this is negative, all good vibes, let's forget it, is not going to be helpful. So I think that resisting the urge to follow dichotomies like light and dark in every aspect of your life can be helpful. Of course, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have values or morals or apply ethical standards to what you do. You can still do that without reducing it to light and dark. Because in the end, as I said, is a healing spell good magic if it is done without consent, and is a baneful spell bad magic if it is used to protect someone? Even that question is already so complex that it's impossible to just fit it into categories. So by clinging to these labels, I think we miss the opportunity to embrace the full spectrum of the practice, and we lock ourselves out from certain things that we might consider dark or bad, and thus don't even consider doing them. And I think it takes more reflection than that. We should reflect on our morals, our ethics, and know why we might choose not to engage in a certain practice instead of just saying, oh, I heard that's dark magic, I won't do it. So instead of focusing on labels like bad witch and good witch or light witch and dark witch, you should maybe focus on building a practice that is authentic to you and that feels aligned to you and isn't just one of those labels that you see everywhere. I'm not against labels like Green Witch or what else is there? Green Witch is the only one that came to my mind. Some people also say Red Witch or White Witch or, a kitchen witch. There's so many labels. I can't even think of all of them. And I think those labels can be helpful if you use them to explore different parts of witchcraft. But I don't think it's helpful when you box yourself in and say, I'm just this and I'm not exploring outside of that. I think it's really not meant to be, it can be maybe your favorite topic, your favorite kind of magic. But if you engage in witchcraft, you will soon notice that the boundaries aren't that clear. Like you always work with energy. So what is an energy witch? A green witch is going to be an energy witch as well. A kitchen witch and a green witch might be both into cooking. It's really not like boom, boom, boom. These are the categories and you fit into one of them. As I said, can be helpful to engage with certain practices and explore them, but don't box yourself in. And it's the same with light and dark magic. In the end, your craft should reflect your intentions, what you want to reach with your witchcraft, what you want to accomplish. It should reflect your values, your morals, which you hopefully know, because many people don't even know their values and what they follow and what they want in life. And that's your unique journey that your witchcraft reflects. It shouldn't be something that is someone else's expectation of you and you do it to, fit into a category and be part of a certain club. And embracing both the light and the shadow aspects makes your practice a lot more rounded. And both of those things are part of who we are as humans. And if people start to group things like shadow work, which is healing, definitely a healing modality, into dark magic just because it's called shadow work, that's worrisome. That's not helpful. It's not helpful. No. Also, if you're into reflection, just a little intermission here. If you're into reflection, if you're into tarot, I also have a Patreon where I show journaling prompts, tarot spreads, essays, general readings. Might be interesting to you. I will link it below. And now let's get to the closing words, because I really want to leave you with the idea that your magic is valid. Your magic is valid, whether it's focused on healing or on baneful magic at times, whether you do shadow work or you do light work, whatever the difference between those two even is. What's the difference? I don't know. Don't let yourself be told that something is bad if it feels good for you, if it feels aligned and right for you. You're good. That's your magic. So let's just move beyond the whole good witch, bad witch thing. And let's focus on the complexity of witchcraft. Let's celebrate that complexity, because that's exactly why we are into witchcraft, because there's so much nuance, so much opportunity, so much complexity that we can explore. And I sort of spoke about that in my video about Christianity versus witchcraft and why some witches convert to Christianity, because I think it's super important to see that in the end, it can be scary to have so much opportunity, so much possibility as you do in witchcraft, but that's life. It can also be very freeing, it can be very liberating, and it can be very empowering. So walking that fine line between being scared of the opportunities, but also using them to empower yourself, is an inherent part of witchcraft that needs to be appreciated. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on this? Do you agree? Do you maybe disagree with me on something? Do you have any thoughts about those moral dilemmas? You know how in ethics and philosophy they always have this dilemma of, oh, there's a plane crashing into a city, there's 100 people in the plane and it would kill 1,000 people in the city. Do you shoot down the plane intentionally? Blah blah blah, and these moral dilemmas that I opened up in this video kind of feel the same, where it's like, is healing someone without their consent good or bad? Is it morally right? Is baneful magic justified if it's for justice, etc., etc.? All of these topics are so complex, and I would love to hear your opinion on it in the comments. So thank you for watching. Thank you for dwelling with me in my domain. Do subscribe. Do like this video. It does help. Do check out my Patreon if you feel like it. And I look forward to seeing you very soon.